Hello, legends. Paul's not riding with me this morning, so I'm heading out alone. We're going to ride together on Sunday. So I'm going to just try to pick up a group and do a shorter ride than normally for Saturday. It's barely daylight. The sun's just coming in, about 6:26 in the morning at clip-in time. It's warm. It's like probably 79 Fahrenheit, which is about 26 Celsius. It doesn't cool off much overnight this month in our area, and it's very humid. So we're looking for some relief in the near future, hopefully. In a little bit, I get my lights going. In the front, you will see it flashing on the stop sign right there. I got the front going, I got the back going, and I basically set the light to where even though it's blinking, I can still see the road. So it does light up the road. You can see how it lights up my computer head unit there. It's very effective. On this ride, I left Northampton, went into the woodlands. I rode up the Research Forest, picked up Team RR. We headed down Fishcreek Boulevard. A guy with us had a flat, so we kind of had to wait because he had like a hole in the tire. We rode into Hornier. There was some activity there on Mill Route, and on 2854, I went ahead and rode off the front. I think you would like the clips. On the way back, we took 1486. After we got off of 105 past Dobbin and came back on Jackson Road. That's all off camera. Paul didn't ride with me this weekend. We rode on Sunday, so I really didn't go as far on this route. But I think you would like the clips. The weather was very hot, as it's August here in southeastern Texas. So we're hoping that we can get some cooler weather in the near future. Hey, legends. I'm on Research Forest. I just got here a little while ago, waiting on Team RR. I think that's them right there. So today I'm just gonna sit in and spin because tomorrow Paul and I will ride. That was the original plan, but once we got going, things changed. So my goal is just sit in. Good morning, guys. Once we hit Mill Route, they had been playing around too much, and I was like, you know what? Let's make it harder here. Because they like to stop at that corner, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go hard early and just keep the effort. And so I ended up going a little harder than I had planned, but it was just for a short period of time, so didn't detract from our original plan anyway. I felt good, so I figured, why not? So we hit Egypt Lane here, turn. This is Lulo on the right there. The sun is beautiful. Yeah, the sun's is coming in its glory. That's Lulo on the right. He has a flat. He hit a rock, and the rock sliced his tire, and he didn't know that he had a cut in the tire, so we ended up blowing 2 tubes before we found out. We ended up putting a Park Tool boot in there, so he was able to finish the ride. But we stood on the side of the road for at least half hour. It seemed like a long period of time for it. I was wearing white gloves, so I didn't want to get my hands dirty. So he was competent enough, so he didn't need me to grab anything. I'm putting on my sunglasses here. I carried it on the back of my head early on. These are the Prism sunglasses from Oakley. They're very nice. I like them because even when it's cloudy, they cut through the shadows and you see well. It's a decent turnout, and we end up riding up to another group after we repaired Lulo's flat, and so we end up with a huge group on Mill Route. Everybody starts getting excited. So I waited till things got really hard. Then I decided to go hard. That's Dan on the left, and that's Mike Weingrad on the right there chatting. That's Lulo on the right here with the white and little chartreuse lines in his jersey. I didn't get the name of this gentleman right here next to me. I want you guys to notice that throughout the clips and throughout the ride, just like last week, that's Abby on the left. Abby does not put his nose in the wind. So when I went hard and he got on my wheel, he was indecisive at the corner, and that allowed me to open up a huge gap, and you will see that. He realized that I was going so hard and that it would only be the two of us, and I don't think he wanted to work hard.
Close it up.
Yeah, this is I think this is the reason why last week there's one driver said get off the road. Sometimes guys in this group get careless and they take up more room than we should. You need to be two abreast, really no more than that legally. And just forget about legal, just from a standpoint of being courteous and considerate. We need to use just half of the road. You know, and that's one thing about the WCC Mo's group. You're not going to see this. They keep it tight. These guys are more of a social, I mean, you know, they're there for fitness as well, but they mess around too much. And even the guy on the left, Dan there, who's the third abreast over there, he's been stopped by an officer. He's been stopped by an officer for that very thing, for taking up too much room on Mill Route, because Mill Route is very narrow. And you will see today on Mill Route, we had to give a lot of warnings for people who were not using the side of the road that we were entitled to. You know, cars were coming up, cars were coming from the back, and we constantly had to give them warnings. When I ride, I basically use just my allotted piece of the road, regardless of whether I'm with the group or solo. It just makes sense, and then there's less to keep up with. So, you know, now they're two abreast, which is better, but there's still, Mike needs to be behind this lady here. I don't know why they're taking up more of the road than necessary. So I wanted to just point that out. Granted, we don't have cars zooming by right now. It's not busy or anything, but even when the road is not busy, just use your half of the road if you must. And what they're doing there is okay. They're going past these riders, and you can see I go around them. And you pass, and then you get back over. So Dan and I talked during the ride. The jersey he's wearing, I really like the colors. It kind of reminds me of some of the old school jerseys. And you know, you guys know I like the orange to red color spectrum, because orange is one of my favorite colors, orange. And so it caught my eye, and I complimented Dan on the way back off camera. And then he said, yeah, I really like the jersey. He said, but the zipper is not very robust. And I kind of knew what he meant. And then I clarified. I said, yeah, it's hard to open with one hand. And then he said, yeah. And that jersey is made by Santini. I think he just got one that just doesn't have, you know, like they have these YKK zippers. And a lot of the vendors would specify that. So if you're buying jerseys, that's what you want to look for. The YKK zippers are better so that you can unzip and zip up with one hand. So Dan is unhappy with the performance of the zipper, but he likes the jersey. I just wanted to mention that. So when you do your shopping, just be very careful, and so you get things that will function for you, because his jersey is not very cheap. You know, it doesn't matter. You spend money on it, you should be able to get the function you need. And that's why I'm very particular at this stage with cycling, because there's enough stuff out there. I don't want to buy things that don't perform. Right here, Abby said he wants to wave me. I said, I told him to get in there. Lulu, I told Lulu I said I'm talking to him. It's like you already at the front. What are you waving us up for? I mean, come on, really? Now, all he really needed to do was stop pedaling, drift all the way to the back. Don't wave me up. There is no reason for you to wave me up when you're already there. If you want to be the last person in the group, just don't pedal. Because I'm gonna be riding. What I did at that corner, I intentionally let the gap open. And the reason why he waved us up, he was worried about having to close that gap. So he wanted us to fill the gap. That's why I pointed to it. I told him to get in there. I said, you're already there. I don't have time for that. It's foolishness. You're already in a position to sit there. You're not going to the back for any particular reason. But you guys need to watch this. Throughout the ride, he does that. He'll move through the group and then end up in like second, third position. And on the way back when we're coming off camera, he even did it to where we're on Jackson Road. The pace line is hot and heavy. He rides from the back and gets to like third position, but there's no gap. So he sits in the wind, and the rider that was in third position ended up backing up to let him in. And if it had been me, I would have let him sit in the wind longer. Because why are you moving up? There is no gap in the line that you're closing. You're not going to the front to help pull because Mike had been pulling on Jackson Road. So why are you just roving up and then you sit there knowing that you don't plan on sitting in the wind? So the stuff that he does doesn't make any sense. It disrupts the pace. And I just, at this point, I was looking for it on that corner. So, you know, the reason I'm pointing that out is there is no rule that says he can't do what he's doing. But don't come wave me up through the line. You're already there. Why are you waving me up? If I leave a wide gap and you're worried about it, then you fill the gap. That's why he was waving, because I left a huge gap. And he realized that if these guys were to go, he would have to close it. Watch where he is. He's not happy just sitting in the line. And you guys can see I've been talking about it all this time. He's going to keep roaming, get in front of somebody, slide to the back. Just find a spot and hold it. If you want to leave a gap for somebody to get in front of you, fine. But why you always got to be trying to get to the very last position in the group? The problem with that is, if you're last in a group, when somebody makes a move, you can't react. You got too much ground to cover. And last time we rode with him, I think it was last week, he ended up encountering that because when we went hard, he could not play because he had been sitting at the back when we made the move. If you guys remember, we took off from near the front and he could not participate, but I don't think it was on camera. Yeah, I'm talking about something that happened off camera. But I want to point out that you don't always want to be the last guy, because it's harder at the back, in my opinion. Because when they make a move, if think about it, if you're climbing a hill and somebody has already climbed the hill and they're on the descent and you're still climbing, you're gonna work harder. So you really want to be close. You want to be like the middle of the pack towards the front. This is a small group, so it's not that big a deal. They're not riding that hard. But what I'm pointing out is when the riding really starts, don't always try to be the last guy. Even if you're out of shape, I think it's easier to sit in the pace line like that day when Paul was having a problem and moved him up and he sat in the group. He was able to hang because he was cocooned in there. He had a great draft. The last position requires some work, because when they give it the stick at the front, you got to make up this ground. So you got to make sure you're strong to sit back here. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are not in shape feel uncomfortable sitting in the group because, you know, they know that it might get dropped and then they end up at the back. And it's really quicker to get dropped from the back than in the middle of the group. So don't always try to be the last guy. I don't know why he does that, because but my thing is that he does not want to put his nose in the wind. And that's what I noticed. The entire ride, we rode for almost 4 hours. The guy never took a pull on this ride that I'm commentating on. I mean, come on. And he rides a lot. He was the one bragging that he rides 400 miles a week. If you're riding that much, you should be helping the group. You know, for me, I don't care, but don't come give me directives. I know what I'm doing. Don't come wave me up. I told him, get in there. If you're concerned about it, get in, because I don't care. I can close the gap. So I left that open on purpose to see what he would do, and sure enough, because I've seen that he's not the only rider that does that. Even in this group, one of the ride leaders always like to be in the back, and then when we come to a climb, he'll go to the front to work the climb, and that's his thing. And you know, he just wants to work the climb hard, and go back and sit in the pace line. But my thing is you're in good condition. Help the group. Everybody here pulls, except for the people who are not strong enough to. But my pet peeve with what he does is, if you're not going to help the group, I don't want to see you acting like you're sprinting after 50 kilometers sitting in the back. That's what annoys me. Some of the other riders that sit in the back, they don't come around sprinting and all that kind of foolishness. And that will bother any group. That's why I'm pointing it out. Don't be that guy, please. People may not say anything to you, but they see it. And they will talk amongst themselves, even if they don't come to you and tell you. And at some point, if you continue, you're going to be attacked at an inopportune time and end up getting dropped.
Rest ride for me.
I'm saying this is a rest ride. So Abby's not a bad guy. Abby's a fabulous guy. You know, I've chatted with Abby. It's not about Abby. It's about his antics. I just don't want you guys to copy bad habits. When I bring these films to the channel, my goal is to show you what's recommended, what's proper, so you look like you know what you're doing. And I have to point out that what he's doing is not the proper thing to do. It's not cool. You know, everybody's aware that they need to take their pulls. The only people who don't take their pulls are people who are not in condition to, and that you don't have to pull, but don't attack your group if you're not going to pull. And that's my point. You can see he's managed to come all the way to the back again, and he was further up, and he does that throughout the ride. Fine, that's his prerogative. When I'm riding, if I feel good, I'm gonna pull. If I don't, I'm gonna sit in. But I'll still roll through the line and pull off. And you guys saw Mary do the same thing last week. I don't know if she does it on camera this week as well. But whenever, I think it's off camera. Whenever Mary gets to the front, she'll sit in second position. But if it's too hard, and that's Mary up there in the yellow jersey, 2 riders up from Abby. If it's too hard, as soon as the person in front of her pulls off, she'll pull off right away. Which is fine, because at least you're flowing through the line or whatever, or you can leave a gap, let somebody get in front of you. But you're not going to see Mary sprinting and attacking the group and going for sprint limit signs or whatever. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. Let's say you're a new rider and you sit in, and then the sprint goes, and you try to go with the sprint. That's okay. What I'm talking about is sitting in all ride, the group is not sprinting, then you ride off the front, but you have not taken one pull. It's like you're putting on a show. That's the point. We call it being a poser. This guy pulls off out of the pace line, and I suspect that he's sensitive to the sun, because he's got like long sleeves and he's got those long socks. Some riders are very sensitive to a lot of sun, and so they cover their arms. Paul H is one of them. So at this point, the pace is very subdued. It's very steady. Everybody's kind of staying together. In a few kilometers, the guy in front of me here, his name is Lulo. He has it flat. He hits a rock. Those rocks that pile up at the intersections, just, you know, they get blown at intersections. And there wasn't a whole lot of rocks, but I guess he just wasn't paying attention. But it ends up cutting the sidewall on his rear tire. Well, we didn't discover that, and we ended up putting a couple of tubes in there that blew after they were aired up with the CO2, you know, because it was pretty immediate. The CO2 doesn't play around. And once we finally discovered it, we sorted it, but it took us at least 20 minutes or so. So the timing of this light worked great. We rolled through here. This is the guy I was talking about. I think he's sensitive to the sun. He's got arm screens on that match his jersey. They're very lightweight. You can see them. They're not arm warmers. So he's just protecting himself from excessive exposure to the sun. I've got a pair of those arm screen. Mine's in white. I got one in gray. But when it's super humid, I just heat up too much to wear them. So I don't wear them that often. So I put on some heavy sunblock. And I only use them on my arms. My legs are not that much of an issue as far as exposure to the sun. This is Lulo here. He's the one that had the flat. He's a pretty cool guy. I've ridden with him in the past. It was a while ago. He came on one of these rides maybe a couple of years ago. And it was nice to have him back. It took me a while to realize it was him. There is a gap in the group right now, and so Abby's kind of in no man's land. He's riding up to, I think Mike. It might be. I don't think it's Mike. I think Mike is next to Dan here. I move over so I can film it because I can see they're not super far or anything. But I guess they're ready to ride. So Mike is still chatting with Dan. And this is a good pace here. I'm in zone 1, so it's not that hard. I'm sitting back here just spinning, and the gap is closing already. I think Mary is sitting on someone's wheel up there. The road goes up here. And you can tell from my cadence that I'm not working hard. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm just kind of rolling along right now. The guy in front of me has very good cadence. I like his saddle. It looks like the old Rolls saddle that we used to use back in the day. It's a solid saddle. It's good to see a guy, a big guy riding a solid saddle, as opposed to those super lightweight things that move all around. That's a solid saddle he's on, and it's the old, simple shape roll saddle that fit your body very easily. That's a sportful bib short he's got. So it's nice. I like his combination, his color. So he likes orange too. He's got the bar tape is orange, his kit is orange, the shoes orange. That's how the Italians dress. So he must have some Italian in him. That's nice. I got a couple of sportful bibs that fit really well. That brand sponsors Bora Hansgrove and some other pro teams out there. So we come up here. This is where Lulo has the flat. I'm sitting at the back. Lulo is behind me. As we go up the hill, I ride past him. I guess he was in the wrong gear or he's working hard. But right there, you see those rocks? Right there. Psst, he hit it. That's all I heard. Then I tell them somebody has a flat.
Somebody's got a flat.
So there's no easy way to turn around because this is a boulevard. So I go ahead and just turn when I check for traffic, make sure it's clear, and then I turn on this side of the road, facing the oncoming traffic. I don't like to do that for any long period of time. I just feel very uncomfortable doing that. But I wanted to get back to him, make sure if he needed help. So I'm on the shoulder here. I'm trying to get back there quickly before any cars come. I don't like riding against traffic. But if you must, make sure you're off the road. Since he was the last in the group, he's alone. So if you look at the timestamp right now, it's 7:38 a.m. We probably are here till about close to 8. I'd have to look when the film rolls again, because once I get here, he was telling me he didn't need us to stop, but I told him no. I told him that they turned on the side street. He wanted the group to keep going, No, we don't leave people that have mechanicals on the road. I mean, they'd have to
But we had
insist.
a long repair.
You see the time? 8:05. Almost 30 minutes. 27
I don't think everybody's
minutes.
here, Mike. I don't think everybody's here.
But, Eldred, you can't say you're all right and just drive right by.
Yeah, it's a courtesy thing. They're not really listening.
Mike was messing with while we're sitting over there all that time. We had a bunch of groups that came by. Mo's group came by as well.
Soft pedal till everybody catches up.
Yeah, the WCC guys came by. So Mike was messing with them. When they asked if we were okay, he said no. But then he's saying that even though he said no, they didn't stop. They just kept going. So I explained to him, well, they were just being courteous.
Once we get to June, Mike, I change my wardrobe and I get all the lightest fabrics I have.
And while we had been sitting out there, Mike noticed that I wasn't sweating. And he's talking about his kid.
Move around too much.
Mike sweats a lot. So Mike was wet while we're standing there and I was dry. And he's like, how come you're not sweating?
Yeah, whatever works for you. I mean, it's like, I like it.
And I wasn't sweating because I'm wearing the Rafa Flyweight jersey, which wicks moisture. So I'm dry. And he was wet.
Yeah.
And he's like, how come you're not sweating? So So he asked me for the name of the brand, and I gave it to him and all of that. So maybe he'll start wearing some Rafa stuff, I guess. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the different kits. He said, I just get stuff that's on sale. Well, you can't just do that. You got to be more selective. You got to get stuff for the temperature range you ride in.
They're coming.
So when people come and say, if you had to buy one jersey, which would it be? Why would I want one jersey? I got to get a jersey for when it's hot. I got to get a jersey when it's cold, mild, whatever, if you can. Get a few. You don't need one jersey.
11. Yeah, I used to get injured too much.
So we're waiting for people to get back together. We've got the people come together after the flat repair.
I used to get too many shit.
And so we're talking about when I used to run track.
That's how I got into cycling.
And I told him how I got into cycling because I used the bike to get in shape. So somebody said everybody's here. So now we can start riding. But we spent almost 30 minutes because the gentleman had a cut that he didn't discover in the sidewall from the rock. The rock flipped up and sliced his tire. And so he blew 2 tubes before he realized it. So we all pitched him, got him a tube, I got him a boot. I had the Park 2 TB2 boot, and that worked, so he was able to finish his ride, and so he was very pleased. So we salvaged that situation. You got to carry things for contingencies. And in the group, what you don't have, somebody else may have. So I'm sitting on Mike's wheel here. If you notice, consistent with what I've been talking about, I end up in second position. I don't really care. We're ready to ride. That's all that matters to me. But Mike got to see the difference in the quality of the jerseys just standing on the side of the road. And Mike is somebody who was not familiar with Rafa. All he noticed was, how come you're not sweating and I'm wet? Need I say more? So don't be surprised if you see Mike sporting some Rafa stuff in the future. He got a quick education into it. I said, yeah, they're not all created equal. When it's hot and humid, yeah, I'll lighten up the kit. I'm telling him there's a car. The lady saw us. I kept my eye on the driver. Got to make sure they see you. Don't assume. If you're not sure, be prepared to stop. So right here, Mike's working. I can tell by his body language. I've ridden with him enough. And all I'm doing is I'm waiting till he needs some help. And right around here, I think I can kind of tell that he basically backs off the power just a bit because he's been pulling for a bit. And then all I would do is just ride to his left and go by. I think right here, yeah. So I'll go ahead and take the lead here. I'm going to keep the effort about the same. I turn the camera around. When I get to the front, I don't change the pace. I just go through and keep the same effort he was holding. And I believe he just slipped onto my wheel. I don't think somebody came up from behind, but we get on the overpass here. Right as we get to the top of the overpass, we'll see one of the groups that had passed us. And Mark, who sets up this ride a lot of the time, says that he thought it was like part of Mo's group. And I thought, no, I don't recognize anybody in there. But it was a group that left from an area in the woodlands near a local Starbucks on the FM 2978. And we end up catching up to them, merging and riding with them into Mill Route. So the group ended up just swelling and growing in size. So I thought that was kind of cool, you know. Down a recumbent going south. Yeah, so Mike's on my wheel. We're getting closer to finishing this overpass on the other side. That would be nice. We'll have like a boulevard all the way. I'm right at sweet spot. It's about the effort that he was doing down there. And you can see the group up the road there. I think I'll pull off somewhere around here.
Let's go left. It's quieter. Yeah.
We're discussing whether we should go straight or left on this road. I like to go left because it goes through what I call the B and the C roads. You see Mike gets back to the front. Mary's on his wheel.
Part of it.
It's Abby and Dan the man. I gotta get this guy's name. I never got his name. I think I slipped behind him. I guess he's the last. I don't see Mark. I guess Mark's behind me. I don't know. Well, I know Mark is here. So there must have been enough of a gap and I just slip in to fill the gap. So what I was talking about earlier about Abby waving me up, if you want to talk to somebody in the back or whatever and you wave somebody, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I was giving him a hard time because of his antics that I'm aware of. This is why I'm telling Mark, I don't think it's Mo's group. He thought it was Mo's group.
Anybody there?
So Mark said he was not going to ride his legs off because, you know, Mo's group, they go hard. And so the group wasn't going that fast. We're not going to come up to Mo's group while I'm riding sweet spot. I'd have to be in zone 5. So I suspected it wasn't the WCC boys or remnants of their group unless they had backed way off. We turn on Capitol Road here. I think there's a truck on the side of the road here. He's parked. He's sitting in his vehicle, so we move around him. It was good to finally get going again. But it was also good to not have left that guy on the side of the road because after he burst 2 tubes, he was resigned to, I'm going to try to call for a ride and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we got everything we need to get you going, dude. Now that you found that you've got a cut in the sidewall, we can fix that. And so he was like, what is that? And so he was not familiar with the TB2 and so forth and so on. So quite a few people learned that they need to carry things other than just a tube. And you'd be amazed. It's like, you got to carry things so that anything can happen, at least to where you can get back or finish your ride. So he was like, wow, that little piece of thing. I said, yeah, this little piece of thing allowed you now to not have to stand on the side of the road waiting for a ride. You get going again. Doesn't take much, just having the right things. The road goes up a little bit here, just a slope, maybe 1.5%, if that. found out this weekend that my latex tubes are a lifesaver because one of them had 2 holes in it, and I rode for 3 hours on a latex tube in the tire that had 2 holes in it. It was amazing because it didn't go completely flat. It just got softer gradually, which is different. If that happens to a butyl tube, they lose all the air immediately. So even on clincher rims, latex tubes really have a good advantage. I mean, sometimes they can blow and they make a lot of noise, but it takes a major intrusion. So right here, the pace is changing. I think I pushed Mary right here. Yeah. She uses such a large gear. It's hard for her to get going. So I tell her to get on my wheel, and I ride her back to Mike up here. So as we approach this guy on his TT bars, he looks back, he sees us, he slips in the line, and you will see him, I think he goes to the front after a while. He stays to the left right here, but he's gonna stay out in the wind riding, you know, keeping the pace high. I just wanted to bring Mary back before we get to those climbs on Ribbon Chapel further through the intersection that's coming up. He's got one of those bikes that back in the day they used to have these bikes with a suspension. There is no rear triangle. That's what he's on. His position looks good, looks comfortable. He's worked on it. So just a top 2. Back in the day, those bikes were pretty popular that had no rear triangle. They sold for a while and then they just kind of faded away. They had suspension under the tube. I don't know if his has it or not. So we merged with the group that had passed us after Mo's group passed us. And the group that we merged with leave from west of where these guys start. I'm telling the car up because Abby's all the way near that yellow line again.
Yeah.
I don't mess around on these roads. It's just too much to keep up with. Use half of the road you can. So the guy on the TT bike I was talking about with the non-rear triangle has already gone up the road. He's through the stop sign. We'll end up reeling him back in because it's gonna get people are gonna get a little crazy in a little while. The pace will quicken. So it's clear. We go through the road to the left is a dead end, and these roads are so lightly traveled. That's like an apartment complex on the left there. We don't have too many out here. Now, I like these roads, what do they call it? B, C, D roads, whatever, but they're not major roads. They're people's neighborhoods. They're always quiet. And so the volume of traffic, the speeds are lower, everything. So whenever possible, we cut through here. Plus, they got nice climbs. And if you did like a Garmin heat map, these roads would show up in purple. That's how you plan your routes. You look for roads that are going to give you a high exercise potential. That's Mark. Yeah, Mark's back there. I was wondering where he was. This climb goes up to about 3%. It's the first climb on Ribbon Chapel. People usually get excited around here. I don't see anybody passing yet. Well, at this point here, my goal was to just sit in. So at this point, I'm not thinking about riding hard. I just figure I'll just sit, spin to the store, ride back with the group. I like how we're using just half of the lane here. I usually sit either where Dan is or where Mike is. In a group, usually where Mike is if I need to see around people. There's no reason to go way out on the other side. There's no reason to go where Mary is unless I have a particular reason to be there. Even when we used to ride double pace line, you do it like you see Mike and Dan, and then you guys peel off on either side, so you can do all of that in one lane. This guy rode with us last week. He was in all black. It looks like the guy who was on the TT bike on the left there. He was ahead and I guess was caught up. You can see his lights. In a little bit, I'm going to move to the right because that's the best line in that corner. I go outside and then I come in. In the group, I can't really take the perfect line, but I go to the outside because it's always better. I will go to the right of Mary. You can carry more speed. You go from the outside to the inside. We're moving here. About 27 miles an hour. This guy's not part of the group. It's the rider out here riding alone. We come around him. And if a group like this comes around you while you're riding solo and you want to follow, that's fine. Because you got riders galore. You just slip in, find a spot, and get in if you want to see if you can hang with them. No particular protocol required.
Left turn.
The reason why people are saying car up and so forth is because there's always somebody who wants to go 3 abreast or more, so at least they get the warning. I just stay on the right here. This road's very narrow, and we've got hills that have blind spots, and we have curves. So you don't see these cars sometimes until the last minute. So I like to just stay on my side of the road. It's a lot easier to see when you're solo. You see, there's a car coming. And I think there's a car behind also. You will hear me say, if you keep it tight, you don't have to worry about it.
Car back. Close it up.
See? Keep it tight so people can get around. I don't know what Mike's doing, but I told Mark, I said, if you stay on your side of the road, you won't have to worry about it too much, but people all over the road, not sure why. Now watch, Abby goes, another one of his moves. He's not going to be in the wind, though, of course, we know that. So I just sit there and just watch. I'm watching because what's happening is the Team RR group is moving through the group that we rode up to. I guess they lifted their pace momentarily, and then now it's like it's hitting home that we can keep this going. So the Team RR boys are moving through the group to the front. I lift the camera so you can see that there's a slight gap at the front. This is the blind spot I was talking about. It's a hill and then it turns right. So you really got to stay on your side. Now you got a bit of visibility. You can see there's a little bit of separation up there. When Abby made that move, a few people went with him. Of course, he slipped into at least second or third position, and someone else is pulling. It might be Mike. I see Dan up there, and I'm sitting here behind Mary. In a little while, I'm going to help Mary because she starts to fall behind on a climb because, you know, her gearing. So Dan's up there pulling right now. And we begin to move faster than these guys that we had hooked up to. I move left, I grab Mary right here, I push her. I said, come on, get in there.
Get up there.
Just enough, because now we're over that little rise, so she got a bit of a downhill. So now what? Look up there. You notice Abby's in second position. He's never pulling. So when I make my move, he's starting to go and I just blow past. I'm like, I'm gonna make you work for this wheel. And you will hear him say, woo, as I go by. Because I really twist the screw. At this point, I'm not even thinking about it, but I decide, okay, I'm gonna go hard. Since they're messing around, they're attacking every climb, I'm gonna go hard and I'm just gonna keep it hard. Right there, Dan starts to go. So I go ahead and start, I move left and I just start to sprint. Look at my cadence, over 120 RPMs. Abby starts to go here, I'll blow past him. And the TT guy was on the right there. The guy was on the TT bars with that non-rear suspension bike. I get on Dan's wheel real quickly. Then I realize he's holding 25 miles an hour. I go ahead and rev up. I hit about 27, almost 27 miles an hour. And I just keep my cadence up. Now I'm in the bottom to the middle of zone 4. And I decide I'm just going to keep it there till I get to the corner. Abby's on my wheel because he's always following other people, you know. And that's what people call wheel sucker. I go ahead and I'm like, okay, he's thinking I'm going to stop at the corner because that's what they usually do. And I'm thinking, no, I'm going to keep this all the way on up the grade of 2854. The guy with the orange arm screens are here. I don't know what route he took to get here. But oh yeah, he didn't wait for the flat when we had the flat. I turn right here and I kick it just a little bit, and then Abby realized I'm gonna keep going. I will flip the camera back. I'm not going super hard. My effort dropped a little bit. Right there, he's undecided. Let's see if we can show him. He's not quite on my wheel. Right there, see the gap? I start to work it. I'm keeping the effort. It's only 25 kilometers an hour, and I rev it up. I say, okay, I will do about 18 miles an hour or so, and just go, because this road is a grade, and then the wind is there. And I start to work right at sweet spot. I'm not going as hard as I did when I went past Dan, but you will see the gap. You see, that's from being indecisive. They're trying to decide. They're playing game. Who's gonna chase? Who's not gonna chase? Look at the gap open, and I'm not going full gas. Nowhere near. I'm just going steady, what I call sweet spot. Bottom of zone 4, thereabouts. And I just go ahead and rev, and every so often I turn the camera around because I want them to catch up, but I want to make them work. You see the gap? because nobody wants to pull to the front. That's what happens when you go with the wrong people. So a guy like Abby who doesn't like to stick his nose in the wind, that's what happened. All he had to do was sit on my wheel. But he realized that if it's just the two of us, he's going to have to work. So he didn't want no part of that. And look at the gap. The gap opened without me trying that hard. And I just start working it. I'm messing with the camera while I'm riding hard just to show you guys I'm working here. I'm riding 18 miles an hour into this grade. And I'm not looking at the speed. It's just my effort. I'm just keeping it to where when they come, I'll be able to just slip back in. But because of their indecisiveness, look at that. Look at that gap. It's not, I'm looking under my arm. I can see, I'm looking to see where they are. That's what I just did there. It's not a whole lot of fun riding off the front unless you got a finish line, or let's say you bridge into somebody. So this part of the ride, I wasn't really enjoying it that much. So my goal was, okay, I'm just going to go hard enough to where they work to catch me, but they'll be able to catch me. Because if I didn't want them to catch me, I would probably be riding in the 170s, which is zone 4. Because right now it's the bottom of zone 4. If I increased it a bit more, then I would have stayed away. But I wanted them to catch up to me, just to keep it more interesting. You can see them getting up. I think Mike Weingrai decided to get to the front and put his nose in the wind. So that's what happened when you don't have enough people pulling. They were messing around. Now it's time to work. Everybody's hiding. And that's the same thing can happen in competition. You can't make a decision, and before you know it, you lose. It's over. The finish line is there. And you know.
Nice sprint there.
Mike said nice sprint. So he comes by. You can see Abby. He's trying to leave a gap again because he wants to be away from the front. I make him go through. I mean, come on, man. You can't spend all your time on somebody's wheel. So that's Dan there. Dan kind of pushed me up. Say, you know, you get up there. And Dan's taking a break. So there's basically, let's see, out of the 20 people who are riding with or more, however many were worried, the whole group, you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, you got 6 of us in a front group. We rode away from everybody else, pretty much. So you got to do your hardest work when it matters. Timing is everything in cycling. I think pretty much in life. So they come by and they're holding the same effort right here that I'm holding pretty much. Well, I know they're going a little harder because I'm sitting in the back here at my same effort. The road went up here a bit. Now it's leveling off, and we're going to start going downhill into the outskirts of Montgomery, Texas. I'm gonna stay a little to the left, and I'm not pedaling. We're doing 31 miles an hour, or 32. But I'm not pedaling because of the draft. Now I resume my pedaling. At 32 miles an hour, we're going into Montgomery. It's a little easier here because it's downhill. And we've got the wind slightly behind us. So when you ride in a group, don't spend the entire ride when you're in good condition in the draft. You're not going to get stronger quickly. You got to get your nose in the wind. You got to pull. Do short pulls, go back, take a break, go back, work. That's what makes you strong. I do most of my rides solo or with Paul. So it's either one or two riders, pretty much. So I'm always in the wind. You don't want to depend on the group dynamics. We hit the light here at the 105. What Mike is saying is we should have done 30 miles an hour all the way, and then we would have gone through the light. Because then he says it's a good start for the hill because you get all that momentum. But this light at this intersection is so short.
Hey, did Dan keep up? Where's Dan? Green up. Oh, there.
So as we go across, Abby tells this guy in front of me that, hey, this is your hill. Something like that. I think his name is Dan also. He said, this is your hill. So I guess it got him excited. So he starts to rev up the pace. You can see it's a gradual. I've talked about this climb before. It's about probably up to 2.5%. And then at the top, the wind kind of kicks in. So it's not the most challenging climb we have up here, but it's good length, and in the proper gear you can feel it. So we're doing about 22-23 miles an hour, and it gets up to like 2%. I just sit on him and I'm spinning around 90 or so. This area here is on the tail end of Lake Conroe to the right. There are some B roads back there. I'm gonna check it out. I looked at it on the map. So the lake reaches down here to the right. The lake is there. If you go right in those neighborhoods, there are a bunch of lakefront properties out there. I think he's on his TT bars. And the speed starts to drop here. I mean, he's doing a pretty good job of holding it. We come across a bunch of guys. I don't know if the camera picks them up. They're coming out of the area I'm talking about to the right that goes around the lake. We've never been back in there, but I think there's some nice roads back in there. So I'm gonna explore that area next time I'm out here. There they are. They came out of one of those side streets that goes to the lake. And I guess he set as a goal in his mind that he was just going to catch up to them and back off. And, you know, we don't know them. They just came out of that area on the right. So they probably went back in there because of the scenery. You know, it's probably nice back in there. This is a nice steady effort, but once we get up to there, he backs off, and I just go ahead and pass him on the left. I'm not ready to change my rhythm. So when he backs off, I just go to the left and take the group past these guys. That guy has the same jersey I'm wearing. He's the one that at the store, he said, man, nice jersey. And he said, the girls don't do that. I said, no, they fight each other. They hate, and they hate seeing somebody wearing what they're wearing. So we laughed about that. I never got his name, but we just shot the breeze about the kid. So as we come down here, I'm not aware that they're going to go right, but I see a police officer sitting to the left. That's like a stealth vehicle. I told Abby we need to stop. That's a police officer over there. In fact, he ended up pulling over some cyclists. We heard stories from the other guys when we got to. I turned right, but then they said they were going straight. They were going to do a longer route, Bailey Grove. So then I do a U-turn here, and I get back. I go ahead and stop, make sure, and then I turn right. Now, about maybe 100 yards later, they decide, oh, Mark says he needs some water. And so we end up going this way and then coming back to Taco Corner anyway. You will hear it. So Dan tells me that they're going to go to 1097 and they were going to cut back on Bailey Grove and come back to Taco Corner. Well, we never made it that far because Mark changed the plans. He said he was out of water or he needed water. So you will see that we'll take Mount Pleasant Road, with a piece of it up there coming up in about 2 kilometers. It's very humid. I'm glad I wore that kit because that thing got the moisture off of me quickly. Makes a big difference in keeping you cool. I'll pull to the front and just keep riding here. I stay below sweet spot. I'm right at about the top of threshold. Top of zone 3.
1097, yeah.
So Dan's telling me that their plan is to go to 1097, which intersects 149, and then we're gonna go to Bailey Grove and come back. I was like, okay, that's cool. But then in a little bit, the plans change. But Mark says he needed water, so we found out from Mike here that Mark needs to get water from Taco Corner. So I thought, well, let's turn right and go back to Taco Corner. And this road here is a more challenging way to get to Taco Corner, actually, because it has a 6% climb at the next intersection. This is the way we used to come when that other road was closed.
I've been riding for the last 6 months. I haven't missed much training. And then Wednesday, this crazy Mike took us out to Richards. Yeah.
After we rode to Richards with Mike and his son.
And I got good legs.
It was long, so we're just talking about. Dan was saying that, you're riding strong.
Because I rode from my house to beat them on 1488.
So we did a ride in the midweek where I rode about 6 hours.
Yeah, we left at 6:30. We were back by 11. I was home by 11. So, yeah. We left at 6:30. Yeah. Because I missed Tuesday. I couldn't ride because of work. And so I'm like, shoot, I got time on Wednesday morning. I jumped on that. I was back home by 11. It was great.
I was shocked at how early you guys got.
Yeah, oh yeah, we didn't play. We went up there and we came back 1486.
It's a long stop.
Yeah, 1486 is a chip seal road from Richards, Texas, but it's got a couple of nice climbs on the way back, and it's quick. We didn't do too many stops. That's what I'm telling Dan. We didn't mess around. So we were back quickly before it got really hot.
So when I'm out here, I want to be riding.
I hate stopping unnecessarily.
It's hot now. What do you mean gonna get? 79 degrees.
You talking about it's gonna get hot? It's hot now. It's like it was almost 80 degrees this morning. The low temperature was 80 Fahrenheit, something like that. That's not, that's just, it's hot. Look at the sun.
So I don't get the sweat in my eyes. I wear that bandana.
So Mark was like, he needs to get himself a bandana because he sweats a lot, and
Saves you, it's salt in your eyes, man.
yeah. So that's Taco Corner over there. So we just took the longer way because somebody needed water here, and so it's a lot of fun riding with a group. It's good to do it from time to time, and then the rest of the time ride by yourself or with your closest mates. and mix it up.
What are we trying to prove? That we're tough?
Yeah, I think we took the long way to the store. We could have come from that way. So there's a bunch of riders here that did not come with us. You see some riders leaving.
So we took the long way to the store to prove what? That we're tough?
There's Mark over there in the green jersey. He's the one that needed to come and get some water. So, after this stop, we rode back off camera. So this is where I stopped the filming. But I don't like to spend a lot of time sitting here. And so we were here for a short period of time, and then we rolled out. And most of the time at these stops, I stay outside. I don't like to go inside the store that much. Maybe grab a drink, come back out. Okay, so I hope you all got a chance to get out this Saturday. This is what we did on Saturday.